Theodor W. Adorno Aesthetic Theory. Philosophical and sociological studies of the arts and literature make up more than half of Adorno's collected works, Gesamtschriften. All of his most important social theoretical claims show up in these studies. Yet his aesthetic writings are not simply applications or test cases for theses developed in non-aesthetic texts. Adorno rejects any such separation of subject matter from methodology and all neat divisions of philosophy into specialized subdisciplines. This is one reason why academic specialists find his texts so challenging, not only musicologists and literary critics but also epistemologists and aestheticians. All of his writings contribute to a comprehensive and interdisciplinary social philosophy. Zudover 2007. First published the year after Adorno died, Aesthetic Theory marks the unfinished culmination of his remarkably rich body of aesthetic reflections. It casts retrospective light on the entire corpus. It also comes closest to the model of paratactical presentation, Hullet Kenterin at 1121, that Adorno, inspired especially by Walter Benjamin, found most appropriate for his own atonal philosophy, relentlessly tracing concentric circles. Aesthetic theory carries out a dialectical double reconstruction. It reconstructs the modern art movement from the perspective of philosophical aesthetics. It simultaneously reconstructs philosophical aesthetics, especially that of Kant and Hegel, from the perspective of modern art. From both sides Adorno tries to elicit the socio-historical significance of the art and philosophy discussed. Adorno's claims about art in general stem from his reconstruction of the modern art movement. So a summary of his philosophy of art sometimes needs to signal this by putting modern in parentheses. The book begins and ends with reflections on the social character of modern art. Two themes stand out in these reflections. One is an updated Hegelian question whether art can survive in a late capitalist world. The other is an updated Marxian question whether art can contribute to the transformation of this world. When addressing both questions, Adorno retains from Kant the notion that art proper, fine art or beautiful art, Schönkunst, in Kant's vocabulary, is characterized by formal autonomy. But Adorno combines this Kantian emphasis on form with Hegel's emphasis on intellectual import, geistige Gehalt, and Marx's emphasis on art's embeddedness in society as a whole. The result is a complex account of the simultaneous necessity and illusoriness of the artwork's autonomy. The artwork's necessary and illusory autonomy, in turn, is the key to modern art's social character, namely, to be the social antithesis of society. Adorno regards authentic works of modern art as social monads. The unavoidable tensions within them express unavoidable conflicts within the larger socio-historical process from which they arise and to which they belong. These tensions enter the artwork through the artist's struggle with socio-historically laden materials, and they call forth conflicting interpretations, many of which misread either the work, internal tensions or their connection to conflicts in society as a whole. Adorno sees all of these tensions and conflicts as contradictions to be worked through and eventually to be resolved. Their complete resolution, however, would require a transformation in society as a whole, which, given his social theory, does not seem imminent. As commentary and criticism, Adorno's aesthetic writings are unparalleled in the subtlety and sophistication with which they trace work internal tensions and relate them to unavoidable socio-historical conflicts. One gets frequent glimpses of this in aesthetic theory. For the most part, however, the book proceeds at the level of third reflections on categories employed in actual commentary and criticism, with a view to their suitability for what artworks express and to their societal implications. Typically he elaborates these categories as polarities or dialectical pairs. One such polarity, and a central one in Adorno's theory of artworks as social monads, occurs between the categories of import, Gehalt, and function. Adorno's account of these categories distinguishes his sociology of art from both hermeneutical and empirical approaches. A hermeneutical approach would emphasize the artwork's inherent meaning or its cultural significance and downplay the artwork's political or economic functions. An empirical approach would investigate causal connections between the artwork and various social factors without asking hermeneutical questions about its meaning or significance. Adorno, by contrast, argues that, both as categories and as phenomena, import and function need to be understood in terms of each other. On the one hand, an artwork's import and its functions in society can be diametrically opposed. On the other hand, one cannot give a proper account of an artwork's social functions if one does not raise import-related questions about their significance. So too, An artwork's import embodies the work's social functions and has potential relevance for various social contexts. In general, however, and in line with his critiques of positivism and instrumentalized reason, Adorno gives priority to import, understood as societally mediated and socially significant meaning. The social functions emphasized in his own commentaries and criticisms are primarily intellectual functions rather than straightforwardly political or economic functions. This is consistent with a hyperbolic version of the claim that modern art is society's social antithesis. Insofar as a social function can be predicated for artworks, it is their functionlessness. The priority of import also informs Adorno's stance on art and politics, which derives from debates with Lukács, Benjamin, and Bertolt Brecht in the 1930s, Lund 1982, Zudovic 1991, 28-43. Because of the shift in capitalism's structure, and because of Adorno's own complex emphasis on modern art's autonomy, he doubts both the effectiveness and the legitimacy of tendentious, agitative, or deliberately consciousness-raising art. Yet he does see politically engaged art as a partial corrective to the bankrupt aestheticism of much mainstream art. Under the conditions of late capitalism, the best art, and politically the most effective, so thoroughly works out its own internal contradictions that the hidden contradictions in society can no longer be ignored. The plays of Samuel Beckett, to whom Adorno had intended to dedicate aesthetic theory, are emblematic in that regard. Adorno finds them more true than many other artworks. Arguably, the idea of truth content, Wahrheitsgehalt, is the pivotal center around which all the concentric circles of Adorno's aesthetics turn. Zudovic 1991, Wellman 1991, 1-35, Jarvis 1998, 90-123. To gain access to this center, one must temporarily suspend standard theories about the nature of truth, whether as correspondence, coherence, or pragmatic success, and allow for artistic truth to be dialectical, disclosive, and non-propositional. According to Adorno, each artwork has its own import, Gehalt, by virtue of an internal dialectic between content, Inhalt, and form. This import invites critical judgments about its truth or falsity. To do justice to the artwork and its import, such critical judgments need to grasp both the artwork's complex internal dynamics and the dynamics of the socio-historical totality to which the artwork belongs. The artwork has an internal truth content to the extent that the artwork's import can be found internally and externally either true or false. Such truth content is not a metaphysical idea or essence hovering outside the artwork. But neither is it a merely human construct. It is historical but not arbitrary, non-propositional, yet calling for propositional claims to be made about it, utopian in its reach, yet firmly tied to specific societal conditions. Truth content is the way in which an artwork simultaneously challenges the way things are and suggests how things could be better, but leaves things practically unchanged. Art has truth as the semblance of the illusionless.